I'm Avery Hall. Coming up tonight, I fell in Lake Mendota to show you what to do if it happens to you. John, tonight's council meeting is still ongoing behind me, and a large piece of it so far has been dedicated to that gun violence discussion. Some people in there asking if they can have extra time to talk, just to express really strong opinions, both supporting and opposing that movement.
Oh, John, as you can tell, this umbrella is not doing me too much good right now, but check out this tree behind us. This is just one of many huge trees that we are seeing downed or damaged all over Rock County, this one specifically on the Rock River in Beloit. Now, you might be catching some of this lightning behind us, and I'm actually gonna give up on this umbrella because it just snapped in half. Sirens are still going off. This night of storms is nowhere near over. The home houses 3 cognitively disabled adults. Now, those 3 residents are safe this evening, but 2 employees have been shot. The weather is pretty wild, but what's even more wild is the fact that there is an SUV submerged in the lake behind me. This Springfield dairy is home to around 500 cows, but today the cows were almost outnumbered by people. But we are starting to get some gusts coming back in, just a little taste of what's to come. And it's kind of a mess on the streets right here. This is a big problem, blocking 51 going right into downtown Janesville. It's just part of the leftovers from those high winds and rain that we're seeing all over the Rock County area. Good morning, guys. Happy Groundhog Day. We're doing great out here. We're a little bit cold. She told me that Jimmy is very accurate, but what we want to know is, does this Jimmy bite? Syra, Jamie Lobenstein has overcome some big obstacles. Born at just 24 weeks, he hasn't let life's challenges hold him back. We're seeing a whole lot of these and finding a whole lot of these on Mifflin Street today. Today I spoke to a mom who lives in the apartment complex right across the street from a house that was struck by stray bullets last night, and she told me she is counting down the days until she and her daughter can move out of this neighborhood. I've actually got a Valentine of my own. This is Beezy. Beezy only agreed to be my Valentine because I just gave her a treat. Those marchers, John, things were feeling somber. It was a pretty large group, and right now they're headed down here to Willie Street. We expect them to end up right about here in front of the house where Tony Robinson was fatally shot this day 2 years ago. I hope this will remind you that money you give to Boys and Girls Club goes back to the kids of Fitchburg. Here in the sensory room, kids who have autism can decompress if they're feeling overstimulated using anything from this swing to tactile objects, even a ball pit. If you're looking for Josie's room,
let's check it.
Just listen.
You can be amazing.
On today's playlist, Sarah Bareilles, Katy Perry, and Mary Poppins.
Just a spoonful of sugar helps the medicine go down in the most delightful way. Perfect.
She'd been sick for a couple of months, and they found out that she had neuroblastoma. It was stage 4. It's a really established aggressive cancer.
Maybe there's a way out of the cage where you live.
Those are the kids that I tend to ask to see.
Samantha Sinai brings the instruments.
The kids that are in pain or have anxiety, kids who really love music, and maybe a kid that is hard to reach otherwise, and music can sometimes break through that barrier.
Just wanna see you be brave.
And then would you like to do that one again or go on?
Sinai delivers the medicine of music, hoping that just the right tune can carry the pain away for a while.
I've seen a lot of kids become energized, even in a pretty terrible situation.
Like Josie, whose song is often interrupted by other sounds. In her 1.5 years at the hospital.
It makes me very happy when I'm having tough times.
Across the room, her biggest fan says this sound is what gets her through the pain.
Josie does. Josie helps me push through.
And what gets Josie through is finding today's perfect song.
Because it helps you be brave.
Wanna see you, just wanna see you be brave.
In Madison, Avery Hall, NBC 15 News. For Sheriff John Spear,
We have no idea.
the Jakubowski manhunt
And that's what we don't know.
ended with more questions than answers.
How did he get here? What was his connection to Vernon County, Richland County?
How did he travel? Why Richland County? And where are the stolen guns?
There's still going to be a lot of tips that'll come in.
Even with Jakubowski captured, concerns still remain for those who were nearby.
It just means you got to be a little bit more on guard than you normally would be.
Rick Momartz owns Highway 14 Antiques and Firearms here in Viroqua and says he's always wary of those who might want to get his guns the wrong way.
With security, you know, just having a watchful eye. Well, this is something you have to stay on top of all the time.
But says it's not the guns people should be wary of.
Because of the background checks, the NICS checks, everything is a lot more secure than most people think.
The guns taken by Jakubowski are now what's missing. It's just one of many answers Sheriff Spear hopes to uncover as new tips continue to come in. It only took one to lead authorities to the man they were looking for. And Spear says that tip-off gave them the exact chance they needed.
It couldn't have been a more perfect encounter.
But for Momartz, an encounter he hopes to never encounter.
It's a changing world. I mean, well, you have to stay on top of this at all times. You really do.
ABC 15's Avery Hall knocked on front doors and car doors to see who's behind the wheel and who's leaving the wheel behind.
I mean, you get that license, you are on top of the world.
Remember this feeling? Your first time behind the wheel. It's a privileged 15-year-old Brock Mahoney and many others consider their teenage rite of passage.
Basically freedom.
But recent studies tell a different story of fewer teens taking driver's ed or getting licensed at all. We wanted to know what's driving this shift. When I posed this topic to local parents on social media, many confirmed that their teens say they don't care or are too busy to learn to drive. When one mom told me it's been a contentious topic in their household.
Ever since he turned 16, he was adamant did not want it.
I paid a visit to join the family discussion.
I don't really see a point to getting a license.
Aiden Blakeman is 17. He hasn't taken driver's ed and says no one he knows is really worried about driving.
I don't think they have their license. I don't even think they've started driver's ed.
I have one friend that drives, Ethan.
The Revacs aren't really bothered by their son's decision, saying driving is becoming less relevant for their son's generation.
He doesn't even have to go to his friends to play with his friends. He's on the video game machine and they're all playing their games and they're talking to each other.
AAA has been watching these changes with worry.
Anywhere from a quarter to a third of teens are simply skipping driver's ed. They're not getting their license as a teen. They're waiting until after they turn 18.
Nick Jarmus agrees that social media gives teens less of a need to drive, but many do drive eventually, after having no real training.
Huge concern, because by skipping out on driver training and then waiting till they turn 18, they also are able to skip out on the graduated driver's license program.
Something he thinks contributes to the 19 to 24 age group leading in risky behaviors like texting, running stop signs, and not knowing road rules that most of us learned in a car like this.
When I was a kid, the only way you can go see your friends is to drive and see them.
Kurt Schultz runs CISA 2, the company that has taken over teaching driver's ed in many Wisconsin schools. When the state stopped funding driver's ed in 2004, prices went into overdrive.
Years ago, it was free or $50 to take driver's ed.
Now, more like $300 to $400. Still, Kurt thinks culture, not economics, is the biggest reason why kids aren't eager to grab the keys.
We've had a few parents jokingly on the phone to us say, I've got to give them their license. I'm just tired of taking them on their dates.
So, what would Aiden do if he had to drive in an emergency?
I would maybe attempt to drive.
Reminding their son that learning to drive might not hurt.
Not a good time to learn.
It's also against the law. Yeah. That's why you need the license.
For Brock, it's a different thought process.
My friend group, they already all have their licenses.
Perhaps the difference between coming of age in Madison and Spring Green.
My best friend's had his license since the fall.
And Brock can't wait to have his, and all the freedom it brings.
Your teenager, best years of your life, you know, you just want to spend it the way you want to.
In the back seat, Avery Hall, NBC 15 News.